Sharon Henderson. Thank you. Look at me getting set up here. So thank you, everyone who submitted questions for the first Ask the Minister, which means I'm cracking myself up here at how awkward I'm being at the moment. All right. We need one of those stands that just, you can just pull it up. So I combined some of these questions because there was a common theme. And the two areas that these questions tended to land in was the first one was, how do I navigate the world right now? With unity principle, as Sharon was singing, how do I bring love to people that I'm really struggling with, right? With systems that I'm really struggling with concepts and ideas that I'm really struggling with. And then interestingly enough, the other thread that ran through the questions was forgiveness. What is forgiveness? Well, how do we forgive? How do I forgive myself? What does that look like? And I don't think it's a mistake that those questions sort of came up together. For me, there's something about that. There's a synchronicity in how they come together that I think is worth exploring more deeply. So I'm going to start off with one of the first questions, which was, with the thread of Christian nationalism and so many ways that God and Jesus have been associated with patriarchal power and power over, especially recently, is the present-day unity leadership addressing ways to integrate more inclusive and less male-associated designations for the divine in its prayers and publications? You guys you make it so easy for me, right? Okay. So what I actually did was I reached out to Ellen Debenport, who is in sort of charge of our publications and our media and our communications, and she handles all the content that is on our website, is in the booklet. She's the one who decides what books are going to be published, with other voices, of course, but she's the one. And so I shot the question off to her, and I said, here you go. Give me an answer. And she did. So here's what she has to say. Well, the answer is yes, of course. We are striving for inclusive language in our current publications. There needs to be some differentiation between what is coming from Unity now versus more than a century's worth of Unity publications and songs that were written in an earlier time. I would invite everyone to overlook some of the dated language and focus on the teachings that are valuable. And then she said, although I certainly recognize my earlier self in the resistance. She says, the shift away from male language in English as a whole, like he and mankind to mean all people, has only been in about the last 30 years. Does that mean we have to throw out anything written earlier? So she says, the word God does not have to be interpreted as male. People in Unity typically learn to identify the more embedded meanings in language and then redefine it for themselves. In current publications, you will find the word God, but also divine, spirit, source, universe, etc., that carry no gender. And Unity teaches that Jesus was, in fact, a human man who really lived in history. For what it's worth, that was recently confirmed in our newest book, Channeled from Jesus. She goes, the last paragraph she sent me is, Unity is also trying to reach a broader audience than just those in Unity churches. So a lot of this is in the eye of the beholder. Most of the Daily Word readers, for instance, consider themselves Catholic or Baptist. Did everybody know that? No. That the Daily Word is, I think it's like 80% Catholic and Baptist is the subscription to the Daily Word. It's fascinating, right? So, and she says, some complain that we have abandoned God and Jesus entirely. Our magazines, so Unity used to have Unity magazine, but they recently bought and acquired Spirituality and Health. Or maybe and they've merged. And so now Unity's magazine is Spirituality and Health. Touch on a different and more eclectic audience. Our publications and products, while traditionally for Unity Truth students, are expanding. Understanding Your Soul, the Channeled Wisdom of Jesus. The Zen Executive by Unity World Headquarters CEO Jim Blake. Headphones and Heartbreaks, a 60-day musical journey for bouncing back from a broken heart. And then they also have Inner Voice, a tarot deck of affirmations. So I think what she's trying to say is that there is perhaps a more established community that still has their needs, and then there is the expansiveness that's happening within Unity that has their needs. And what Unity World Headquarters is attempting to do is to provide materials that sort of meet people wherever they are and are inviting people into something else. So for anyone who used to read the publications, not so much the Daily Word, because like I said, 80% of the subscribers are not Unity people. But with the publications that we use and I put out and they're here for you to take, before Ellen took over, those publications were very different. They were very, very different. And she has been working really actively to create something that's more inclusive, that has a variety of voices in it, that allows the full range of what it means to be in unity, to actually be able to express. So in any given publication, I'm often a writer for those publications, but there are also writers like from the Bible Belt in Texas. And so their languaging, the way they sort of formulate the words, is perhaps going to have a slightly different bent. But the idea is to try to open up everything they're trying to do, which I think is really powerful, is to bring people in. There's so much resistance to quote-unquote religion because it's done so much harm in the world, let's be honest, right? There's so much harm that has happened in the world because of religion. And so this latest generation, last 2.5, 3 even the Gen X doesn't have much to do with like organized faith. And then it just goes, the involvement just diminishes with each generation. And so what Unity World Headquarters is attempting to do is still satisfy that older generation that wants what they want, and at the same time create avenues to reach out to the millennials and the Gen Zs, and to say you don't have to be afraid of a spiritual community because you have some idea that we're all hell, fire, and brimstone, and condemnation, and sin, and all of that. Does that help everyone to sort of understand where unity is? The part that's bridging back and a part that's bridging forward. And as time has happened, there's more bridging forward, right? That's becoming more and more available. And yeah, even Discover Your Divinity, I don't think 10 years ago it would have been published. Because Linda and I do not talk about God as a being. We're very clear about it being a beingness, a consciousness, and I'm not so sure it would have been published, a decade ago. But it was it was greeted with so much excitement and enthusiasm now. So it's part of the evolving consciousness. All right, this is an easy one. What is sin? What is forgiveness? What is prosperity? That's just, And then another question that tied in was, how do I forgive myself for the pain I have caused others? That's a tender question, isn't it? And a courageous question. How many people in here don't carry something about something that we may have done or said or did, or I have something from when I was like 13 that still pops up regularly, like, oh, that was so who I not want to be in the world, right? So forgiveness is not about having like an act of magnanimity. That's not what forgiveness is. That's not how Unity understands forgiveness. We understand it in some ways almost as an act of self-love. It's a way for us, forgiveness is a practice that we work within ourselves so that we can free ourselves from the resentments that we carry, from the guilt, the shame, all of those things that stop us from being able to recognize our divine identity. So forgiveness is actually a practice. It's something that we're being invited to step into again and again and again. And it's not about denying the harm that's caused. We are never denying harm that has been caused. But it's about recognizing our capacity to grow and to heal, and that we all can choose again. So Unity's, one of the foundational components of Unity's teaching is the idea of the resurrection, the idea that we can be made new, the idea that we always get to rise again, that in our choosing, in our choices, we have the capacity over and over and over again to allow something about ourselves to die away and to allow something about what we're becoming to arise and to reveal itself. So the first step would be, of course, to just acknowledge what happened. Acknowledge the pain, acknowledge, we don't believe in bypassing around the things that make us uncomfortable. And the invitation is, I always say it, like to go through them, not around them, but straight through them. And in the movement through it, something gets broken open, right? Something begins to shift and transform within ourselves. And the other piece is to just acknowledge that we are not the sum of our past actions. Take a breath on that. Right? We're not the sum of our past actions. Ernest Holmes would say, our past is not our precedent. Who we were is not who we have to continue to become. So forgiveness, again, is the practice that allows us to actually live into an evolving consciousness, to live into a way that we can let something sort of move away so that we can stand more firmly in who we actually are. And now one of the biggest pieces of that is making amends. All right? And for those who are in AA, you know how important making amends is, right? There's something about that is very, very healing. And we don't do it to earn someone's forgiveness. We make amends so that we are living into our values. Can you feel the difference? One of them is trying to get something from someone. I need your forgiveness. You need to give me this thing, and then I'll feel better. But what we're really talking about is our capacity to give something, not to have to take something. So we're not trying to prove to someone that we're sorry, right? It's about where we are choosing to live from. The Artist Way sort of just jumped into my brain, and she talks often about clearing the pipes. You do those morning pages, and you're trying to clear the pipes. You're trying to clear yourself. Forgiveness and making amends is part of that practice of clearing away the things that are blocking you, that are serving as an obstacle from you knowing who you truly are. And it's about living in integrity. So if we think about forgiveness and making amends as living in deeper integrity with our divine nature. Doesn't that sound cool? right? It's like, oh, I want to be in more integrity with who I truly am. And it's a process, so we have to bring forgiveness into the process. Are we always going to succeed 100% of the time? No. Anybody in here perfect? I know we want to be, right? I know we want to be. So we have that self-forgiveness becomes so important because that's what actually allows us to move forward and not repeat the same things again and again and again and again and again. So it's really about healing a disconnection in yourself, healing some place within yourself that feels separate and alone and not held in this place of wholeness and oneness. Does that make sense to everyone around forgiveness? So the next question, going back into the questions that sort of started this, is what is sin and what is prosperity? So the way Unity holds the idea of sin is that we understand it as missing the mark. We missed the mark. We somehow tried something and we were aiming there and it ended up over here. Or it ended up just here. But wherever it ended up, it wasn't where we wanted it to end up. And that somehow in that missing the mark, we're not in alignment with what we actually value, with who we actually are in our deepest understanding of ourselves. So we don't understand sin as something that we need to beat ourselves up about. We do not believe in original sin. Everybody take a breath. We do not believe that we are brought into this world somehow already broken or somehow in need of something. We are whole. And then as we navigate this world, we discover, how do we line up with that wholeness? And do we have to miss the mark sometimes to understand what the actual mark is? That's part of it. Is, we think we want this, and then we get it, and we're like, oh, that's not what So that's how Unity would hold this idea of sin. I don't even really use that word. You very rarely hear that word used in a Unity community. And then prosperity. So there's lots of ways to talk about prosperity. I'm thinking in January, Ken Daigle Unity is publishing a new book on prosperity and abundance, living an abundant life. And it might not be out in January, but I got connections. So he's going to be sharing all the material with me earlier, and so I'm thinking we'll start off the new year with a prosperity sort of focus, because prosperity is how Unity holds it, isn't just about money. Take a breath. Yes, money is absolutely an important part of it because money represents energy. Money represents an exchange of energy. And when we're not living into a prosperous life, we're shut down. And energy isn't moving. Energy is stuck, it's blocked. So prosperity is actually the wholeness of who we are. And that's our health, that's our relationships, that's our finances, that's the way we live into integrity with ourselves. So forgiveness becomes a path for prosperity. It becomes a way that we can move ourselves forward. Yeah? And we'll clearly be talking more about that eventually. Eventually. So I love these questions. What constitutes the highest good in this present time in society? And then somebody else asked, what constitutes the highest good? I think the answer is using our 12 powers every day and accepting our God-worthiness, but I will be interested in knowing what you think. Anyone in here ever thought about that? What is the highest good? Right? What is that exactly? We throw that term around a lot. So how I would hold this, and I think this person who mentioned the 12 powers and accepting our God-worthiness, it's like ding, 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 you get points. You get lots and lots of points. Highest good is always rooted in spiritual truth. That's the highest good. It's rooted in a spiritual truth and recognition of oneness, of our divine nature. So that person who said it's about our worthiness of being able to understand that's who we are. And it's also about the sacred worth of each being. So it's not just about our own inner world. It's also about how we bring that inner world to the outer world. And that is the highest good. And like everything else, it's a moving target. Because we're always expanding, and we're always growing, and we're always evolving. I mean, personally, I'm very grateful for that. I would not want to be stuck where I was, pick a time, right? I'm grateful that every day I get to wake up and say, okay, something new, something. What is it that I'm going to anchor today that allows me to live into my wholeness more completely? Another way to think about what the highest good is you can ask yourself these questions. What does love look like here? That's the highest good. What does love look like here? Let go of what you think it is. I think the highest good is if blah, 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 blah. What would love look like here? That's the highest good. What would oneness do now? I love that. What would oneness do now? What would that be? The doingness of something. And then, of course, always asking yourself, the person who mentioned the 12 powers, right? What divine quality can I access right now that I can bring to this? That is about the spiritual truth of what is happening right now. That piece around that it's not just about what's happening within me, but it's also about how I'm showing up and connecting with the world. I really believe that this is what we are all being invited to grow into in a completely different way than we ever have before. And what it's asking us to do is to stand for justice, but we have to stay anchored in love, right? It asks us to speak truth, but we also have to honor the dignity of others. We have to hold a vision, and this is so important, right? Without vision, we perish. We have to hold a vision, and then the vision is what's inviting us into compassionate action. And then the last thing is we got to let go of the fear. We got to let go of that sense of separation and outside and other. So 12 power-wise, because I love that person mentioned the 12 powers, right? You know I love the 12 powers. So I was like, ooh, 12 powers. So I was thinking for me what powers I might activate for those pieces. So standing for justice while staying anchored in love. Love, right, would be a power. Strength. And maybe understanding, right? Maybe understanding, that divine understanding. I need to bring that into this. For speaking truth while honoring the dignity of others. Power. Now remember, power as a power, I know that's weird. Power as a power is not power over. Power as a power means self-mastery. It means speaking truth from that spiritual understanding. Martin Luther King demonstrated power all the time, speaking truth, but coming from this very centered space. Perhaps also love and wisdom, right? If we're trying to figure out how to honor other people, we might need a little wisdom thrown in there. If we're holding the vision, what power immediately comes to mind? Imagination, right? Imagination is one of our powers. So if we're holding a vision, imagination is what allows us to step into a vision. And if we want to also be taking compassionate action, zeal, right? Remember when I shared last week that zeal doesn't just have to mean enthusiasm, it also means devotion, right? So that's what we need to be devoted to our ability to hold this vision regardless of the circumstances. And then maybe, again, wisdom, right? Wisdom as we're trying to choose our compassionate actions. And then the last one was let go of fear and separation, and choose courage, inclusion, and grace. So what power if we're letting go? Release, elimination, right? And then, if we're being invited to keep sort of moving forward, I would say life. Life is what enervates us. Life is like the place, the space where we have that limitless resources that allows us to renew ourselves constantly. So can you see how this is the highest good? Like living into this, in this moment, is what would constitute the highest good. And what the world needs right now in this present time in society is what would love do here now? Right? What would love do here now? Here we go. How do I apply the principles of unity teachings while interacting with people, family, friends, neighbors, acquaintances who are expressing support for the current president's disdainful regard for many and their freedoms? And then the second half of what constitute the highest good in the present time in society asked, how do you act with unenlightened folks that you must interact with? Who don't know divine spirit is within them. How do you keep from getting depressed? I love these questions. So what unity would respond to this is, number one, the only power anyone has over you is the power you give them. The only power anyone has over you is the power that you give them. And remember last week I used that quote when I was talking about the Justice Choir, and they shared about someone who was in a much more authoritative regime, and that person shared that they can take away our freedom of movement, they can take away our freedom of speech, they can take these things away from us, but they can never take away our art. They can never take away the thing that we are going to express. Can you feel how that's acknowledging that they are still empowered? Still empowered. And then, I know this is hard, but, it's all a mirror. Right? It's all a mirror. So the things that you're seeing in others, they're yours. And this is how we're being invited to heal. So if we see someone who feels as if they're being disdainful, the invitation is to say, am I being disdainful of them? Where am I contributing to this energy being present and prevalent? What we place our attention on grows in consciousness. What we resist persists. Really understand that. So if we're saying no, 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 all we're doing is giving that no a whole ton of energy. We have in prayer, we often say worry is a form of prayer. When you're worrying all the time, all the time, all the time, all the time, it's a form of prayer. That's why Unity is so committed to working with ourselves to understand, how can I speak for what I'm for, not for what I am against. What am I for? And I can tell you it's hard. But the thing that I have noticed is that when you speak about what you're for, and not from a place of judgment, that because you're for it, they obviously aren't, because they are unenlightened and they are a mess and they don't know what they're doing, that there are a lot of points of commonality. There are points of commonality with the people who we think are all the way on the other end of the spectrum. Everybody breathe into that. Because this is our work. This is what we have said yes to. Hasn't anybody in here ever felt threatened by somebody else's beliefs? They're feeling the same thing, right? They're feeling the exact same thing. Has anybody in here forgotten who you actually are? Has anybody in here acted out and not been in a place of compassion and open-heartedness? This is part of who we all are. So we're being invited to create some sort of place of understanding and connection because we're actually not separate. I know we wish we were. Having people say, California should just secede. It's like, let's cut ourselves off, right? But we can't. We may be able to do that, like, geographically. Well, let's not get into that, right? But we can't do it in consciousness. We cannot do it in consciousness because there's only one power and one presence. And this question about how do you keep from getting depressed? Anybody in here relate to this? Yeah, it's alive for all of us right now, I think. So the greatest weapon's a hard word. The greatest antidote, there we go, that's a much better word. The greatest antidote to stress and depression is what we have been talking about, our ability to choose anew. Our ability to say, okay, this took me here, this isn't where I actually want to be, this isn't the energy I want to be living with, this isn't the experience in my day-to-day that I want to be having, so what can I choose right now that will create a different energetic in my life? And so the way we do that is through our spiritual practice. We do affirmative prayer, we do meditation, we do connection, we practice forgiveness. We practice our capacity. So the word redemption, which I thought I put that in here, but I guess I didn't. To redeem really means to rethink. That's the root of the word redemption, to rethink. And it's a unity, like foundational understanding. And it's through our rethinking and the activating of compassion and living as a 12, pick a power, any power, and say, I'm going to live as that this day, this week, this hour, this phone call. But we want to be able to build our capacity to hold our center for longer and longer and longer periods of time. It's like you guys go to the gym, we build our muscles. That is what spiritual practice is. You're building your capacity to be able to be who and what you truly are. So you want to practice, but you also want to practice gently. This is why forgiveness is so important. Because you're going to miss the mark. You're going to get angry. You're going to want to throw something at the television. Like, it's going to happen. And it's okay. You get to redeem yourself by meaning you get to rethink, how do I want to align with the truth of who I am? And in that moment, step into some affirmative prayer. In that moment, reach out and call somebody and say, hey, do you see me as love? Because I'm not feeling like love right now. Can you help me remember that I am love? That I have the capacity to actually be a harmonizer, even with people who feel so disruptive. I am a harmonizer. What if you walk through your day saying that? And that place of empowerment is very different. And it doesn't, depression arises in the way, not talking about clinical depression here, I'm talking about depression because we're being impacted by sort of what's happening in the world. It arises because we feel powerless. And so what our practices are all designed to do is to help us feel empowered. Always help us feel empowered. How is that? That's a lot, right? These are great questions. I just want to say that if you want to You can, at any time, there's a link on our website in the events page that says Ask the Minister. Even if you don't know that we have an Ask the Minister scheduled, you can put your questions in at any time. It goes to a spreadsheet, and I will, when I'm ready to do Ask the Minister, there it will be. The other thing is you can always put your questions on a spiritual connection card, right? But don't put questions on a spiritual connection card and then not put your name, because then I have no way of responding to you, yes? All right, I'm going to invite Sharon Henderson to come on up. We're going to step into meditation, and we're going to step into a song that is to support this idea of forgiveness. Anybody have something in here they want to let go of? So let's take a breath together. We're going to step into meditation and then into the song. Let's take a breath. And once again, just allowing ourselves in this moment to recenter in the truth of who we are. Pick a power, any power. I am love. I am zeal. I am imagination. I am life. Wisdom. Understanding. What is supportive for you right now? Release. What is it? Allowing someone, a situation, a person, an institution, a system to arise in your awareness that you want to step into a place of forgiveness. Now, it can be yourself. You can see yourself as well. And just as you call that person into your awareness, just allow your heart to soften. Allow yourself to see the wholeness that they are. Allow yourself to see the wholeness that you are. Just allowing that to wash away whatever the shame, the blame, the guilt, just allowing it all to fall away. Let's just rest here for a minute in the silence as we allow ourselves to be made new, to wash away what no longer serves, all the ways we limit them, ourselves, the world, stepping into that deep, deep wellspring, that deepest practice of forgiveness. Say to yourself, I forgive me. I forgive you. I forgive all this, whatever this is. I forgive me. I forgive you. I forgive this, whatever we're holding. I forgive me. I forgive me. I forgive me. I forgive you. I forgive, I forgive, I forgive.
that brings me pain. Now is the time for me to let go of the shame. The past is behind me. I can see anew. Now I'm ready for my change. Now I'm ready for my change. I'm tired of the guilt that brings me pain. Now is the time for me to let go of the shame. The past is behind me. I can see anew. Now I'm ready for my change. Now I'm ready for my change. I forgive me. I forgive me. Everything that I've been holding on to, I let go. I surrender. I surrender. Now I'm ready for my change. Now I'm ready for my change.
Are we ready for our change?
I forgive me.
I forgive.
And I can forgive you. Everything that I've been holding on to, I let go. I surrender. I surrender. I'm ready for my change. Now I'm ready for my change. I forgive me.
I forgive me.
I forgive me.
I forgive me.
Everything I've been holding on to, I let it go.
Stand up if you want so you can shake it off.
I surrender. Now I'm ready for my change. Now I'm ready for my change. One more time, say I forgive me. I forgive me. Everything that I've been holding on to, I let go. I surrender. I surrender. Now I'm ready for my change. Now I'm ready for my change. And I'm ready for my change. I am
So repeat after, nope, keep playing, Jeremy, keep playing. And so repeat after me. For all those I have harmed, knowingly or unknowingly, I am truly sorry. Forgive me and set me free. For all those who have harmed me, knowingly or unknowingly, I forgive them and I set them free. And for the harm I have done to myself, knowingly or unknowingly, I am truly sorry. I forgive myself and I set myself free. I'm sorry. I love you. Forgive me. Thank you. One more time. I'm sorry. I love you. Forgive me. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And so it is. Amen.